The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of Buckingham Palace as Queen Camilla made her way through the corridors she had walked countless times before. Yet today felt different. The air seemed heavier, charged with an energy she couldn't quite place. Her personal secretary, Margaret, hurried alongside her, tablet in hand, reviewing the day's schedule. "Your Majesty, we have the charity luncheon at noon, followed by the meeting with the Commonwealth representatives," Margaret said, her voice steady but with an undertone that suggested something was amiss. Camilla nodded absently, her mind elsewhere. She had noticed the unusual activity in the palace that morning. Staff members seemed to be whispering more than usual, their conversations stopping abruptly when she approached. Even the normally cheerful housekeeping team appeared subdued as they went about their duties. As they entered the Queen's private study, a room lined with books and adorned with family photographs, Camilla's private secretary knocked urgently on the door. "Your Majesty, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but there's been a development that requires your immediate attention." The man who entered was James Harrison, the palace's communications director. His usually immaculate appearance showed signs of stress, his tie slightly askew, his normally perfect hair disheveled. In his hands he clutched a folder and his phone, which had been buzzing incessantly. "Ma'am, we've received some rather concerning news from our media monitoring team," James began, his voice carefully controlled. "There's been a significant development regarding the royal family that's about to break in the press." Camilla felt her stomach tighten. In her years as a member of the royal family, she had weathered many storms, faced countless challenges, and endured more media scrutiny than most could imagine. But something in James's expression told her this was different. "What kind of development?" she asked, settling into her chair behind the antique mahogany desk that had served generations of royals before her. James opened the folder and pulled out several printed articles and photographs. "Ma'am, it appears that a major international news organization has obtained documents and evidence related to—" He paused, clearly struggling with how to present the information delicately. "James, please speak plainly," Camilla said, though her voice betrayed a slight tremor. "Whatever it is, I need to know." "It concerns Prince William and Catherine, Your Majesty. There are allegations of a serious disagreement within their marriage, with claims that they've been living separately for several months. The story suggests that Catherine has been staying at her parents' home in Berkshire with the children." The words hit Camilla like a physical blow. She had always been protective of William and Catherine, watching them navigate the pressures of royal life with admiration and concern. The young couple had seemed so strong, so united in their approach to duty and family. "Are these allegations substantiated?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The news organization claims to have multiple sources within palace circles, including some staff members. They also have photographs that allegedly show Catherine leaving Buckingham Palace late one evening, with suitcases, and separate images of William at various royal engagements without his wedding ring. Camilla's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the photographs James had placed before her. The images were grainy but clear enough to recognize the figures. Her heart ached as she studied them, seeing the pain and exhaustion in the faces of two people she had grown to love as her own family. "When is this story going to be published?" she asked. "Within the hour, ma'am. Our contacts at the publication tried to give us a heads up, but there wasn't much advance warning. They're running it as their lead story." The room fell silent except for the ticking of the ornate clock on the mantelpiece. Camilla stared out the window at the palace gardens, where tourists were already gathering for the changing of the guard. Soon those same tourists would be reading headlines that could shake the very foundation of the monarchy. "Have we been able to reach William or Catherine?" she asked. "We've tried, Your Majesty, but neither is responding to calls at the moment. William is supposed to be at an environmental summit in Scotland, and Catherine was scheduled for a private engagement in Surrey." Camilla stood up abruptly, her chair sliding back with a sharp scrape against the floor. The weight of the situation was beginning to settle on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. She thought about King Charles, who was currently on a state visit to Australia. He would need to be informed immediately, but the time difference made immediate communication challenging. "We need to convene an emergency meeting with the senior staff," she said, her voice growing stronger as her initial shock transformed into determination. "Cancel all my engagements for today. And James, I want you to try to reach both William and Catherine again. They need to know what's coming before they're blindsided by reporters." As James hurried from the room, Camilla found herself alone with her thoughts for the first time since receiving the devastating news. She walked to the window and looked out at the bustling streets of London below. Somewhere out there, printing presses were running, websites were being updated, and social media posts were being crafted that would soon change everything. She thought about her own journey to this moment, the years of criticism, the constant scrutiny, the gradual acceptance by the public and the royal family. She had fought so hard to find her place, to prove herself worthy of the trust placed in her. Now, as she faced perhaps the biggest crisis of her time as queen consort, she realized that all of her experiences had prepared her for this moment. The door opened again, and Margaret returned with a tea service, her face grave with understanding. "I thought you might need this, Your Majesty," she said quietly, setting the tray down on a side table. "Thank you, Margaret," Camilla replied, grateful for the simple gesture of kindness. "I have a feeling we're going to need all the strength we can gather in the coming days." As she reached for her teacup, Camilla's phone buzzed with an urgent text message. The media storm was about to begin, and she knew that how she responded in the next few hours would define not only her reign as queen consort, but potentially the future of the monarchy itself. The breaking news that would soon shock the world was just the beginning of what promised to be the most challenging period of her royal life. The emergency meeting convened within 30 minutes in the palace's secure conference room. The space, normally used for high-level diplomatic discussions, now buzzed with urgent whispers and the rapid clicking of laptop keyboards. Senior staff members filed in one by one, their faces etched with concern and determination. Camilla entered the room with a composure that belied the turmoil churning within her. She had changed from her morning attire into a more formal navy blue suit, understanding instinctively that the gravity of the situation required her to present herself as the steady leader the monarchy needed in this moment of crisis. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering on such short notice," she began, taking her seat at the head of the polished conference table. "I trust you've all been briefed on the situation we're facing." Sir Edmund Hartwell, the palace's most senior advisor and a man who had served the royal family for over 3 decades, cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, we've managed to delay the publication by approximately 45 minutes through our media contacts, but that's all the time we could buy. The story will break within the next quarter hour. What about William and Catherine? Have we reached them?" Camilla asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety coursing through her. "We've made contact with Prince William's security detail," replied Diana Thornton, the Deputy Communications Director.
"He's been informed and is reportedly returning to London immediately."
"However, we haven't been able to reach the Princess of Wales directly. Her protection officers confirm she's safe, but say she's requested complete privacy and isn't taking calls." The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken implications. Catherine's refusal to take calls seemed to confirm the worst fears about the state of her marriage to William. Camilla felt a pang of maternal concern for the young woman who had entered their family with such grace and dignity. "What do we know about the source of these leaks?" Camilla inquired, her fingers drumming quietly on the table. James Harrison, who had been frantically working his phone throughout the meeting, looked up with grim news. "Initial investigations suggest the leaks may have come from multiple sources. Some appear to be from household staff who were let go during recent budget cuts, and others might be from individuals with access to the family's private communications." "Are you suggesting this was coordinated?" Sir Edmund asked, his decades of experience evident in his sharp analysis of the situation. "It's possible, sir. The timing is suspicious, and the level of detail suggests someone with intimate knowledge of the family's private affairs." Camilla absorbed this information while studying the faces around the table. These were people who had dedicated their careers to protecting and serving the royal family, and she could see the personal investment each of them had in resolving this crisis successfully. "What's our immediate response strategy?" she asked. Diana Thornton pulled up a presentation on her laptop. "We have 3 primary options, Your Majesty. First, we could issue a strong denial and threaten legal action against the publication. Second, we could provide a measured response acknowledging that the Prince and Princess of Wales are going through a difficult period, but are committed to working things out privately. Third, we could remain completely silent and let the story run its course." "What are the implications of each approach?" Camilla asked, demonstrating the analytical thinking that had served her well throughout her time in the royal family. A strong denial risks making us look dishonest if more evidence emerges, Sir Edmund explained. However, it sends a clear message that we won't tolerate invasions of privacy. A measured response might seem more honest, but could be interpreted as confirmation of the allegations. Silence, while dignified, might be seen as weakness and could allow the story to spiral out of control. Camilla stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the courtyard where tourists continued to gather, unaware that their perception of the royal family was about to be fundamentally altered. She thought about the countless times she had stood at similar windows, contemplating decisions that would affect not just her own life, but the lives of millions who looked to the monarchy for stability and continuity. "There's something else, Your Majesty," James said hesitantly. "Our social media monitoring team has detected unusual activity. It appears that someone has been systematically building up to this story release through a series of anonymous posts and hints on various platforms. This suggests a level of orchestration that goes beyond simple tabloid journalism." The revelation added another layer of complexity to an already dire situation. Camilla returned to her seat, her mind racing through possibilities and consequences. She had learned from her own experiences with media storms that sometimes the cover-up could be more damaging than the initial revelation.
"Want to speak with William directly as soon as he arrives," she decided.
"Before we make any public statements, I need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. In the meantime, prepare a holding statement that neither confirms nor denies the allegations but emphasizes the family's commitment to privacy during difficult times." Margaret, who had been quietly taking notes throughout the meeting, looked up. "Your Majesty, there's also the matter of King Charles. He should be informed before the story breaks." "I'll call Charles myself," Camilla replied. "Despite the time difference, this can't wait." As if summoned by her words, Camilla's secure phone rang. The caller ID showed it was indeed King Charles calling from Australia. News traveled fast in the interconnected world of royal communications. "Excuse me," she said to the room before answering.
"Charles, darling, I was just about to call you. The conversation was brief but intense."
Even though the others in the room could only hear Camilla's side of the exchange, her increasingly grave expression told them everything they needed to know about the king's reaction to the news. "Yes, I understand completely," she said. "No, I think it's best if you continue with the state visit as planned. Coming home early would only add fuel to the fire. Yes, I'll handle things here. I love you too." When she hung up, all eyes in the room were on her. His Majesty is deeply concerned, but agrees that maintaining normal schedules where possible is important for the stability of the monarchy. He's given me full authority to handle the immediate response. Just then, Diana's phone buzzed with an urgent alert. "Your Majesty, the story has just gone live. It's already trending on social media, and news organizations around the world are picking it up." The moment they had all been dreading had arrived. Somewhere in the digital realm, millions of people were reading headlines that would fundamentally change how they viewed the royal family. The carefully constructed image of William and Catherine as the perfect modern royal couple was being dismantled in real time. "Show me," Camilla said quietly. Diana turned her laptop screen toward the Queen. The headline was stark and unforgiving. "Royal marriage in crisis. Prince William and Kate living apart amid bitter dispute." Below it was a series of photographs and what appeared to be excerpted text messages. Camilla studied the screen for a long moment, her face revealing nothing of the storm of emotions raging within her. She had faced many challenges in her life, but this felt different. This wasn't just about her own reputation or even that of King Charles. This was about the future of the monarchy itself, embodied in a young couple who represented hope and continuity to millions around the world. "Well," she said finally, her voice carrying a strength that surprised even herself, "now we know what we're truly dealing with. Let's get to work." Within an hour of the story breaking, Buckingham Palace had transformed into a fortress under siege. News vans lined the street outside the gates, their satellite dishes reaching toward the gray London sky like mechanical flowers seeking sunlight. Reporters from around the world had descended upon the palace, their cameras trained on every window, hoping to catch a glimpse of any royal family member. Camilla watched this circus from her private office, feeling a familiar mix of frustration and determination. She had lived through media storms before, but this felt more intense, more personal. The constant flash of cameras created an almost strobe-like effect against the palace windows. a visual reminder of the scrutiny that now felt suffocating. "Your Majesty, Prince William has arrived," Margaret announced softly, entering the room with the careful steps of someone trying not to disturb deep thought. "Send him in immediately," Camilla replied, straightening her posture and preparing herself for what would undoubtedly be one of the most difficult conversations of her life. When William entered the room, Camilla was struck by how much older he looked than just a few weeks ago when she had last seen him. The weight of whatever he was going through had etched new lines around his eyes, and his usually perfect posture seemed slightly slumped with exhaustion. "William, my dear," she said, rising from her chair and approaching him with the warmth of a stepmother who had grown to love him as her own son. "Camilla, I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "I never wanted any of this to become public." They sat together on the comfortable sofa near the fireplace, a setting that had hosted countless private family conversations over the years. For a moment, the formality of their titles fell away, and they were simply two people trying to navigate an impossible situation. "Tell me what's really happening," Camilla said gently. "I can't help if I don't understand the full picture." William ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she recognized from his childhood when he was struggling with difficult emotions. "It's complicated, Camilla. Catherine and we've been having problems for months. The pressure, the constant scrutiny, the expectations, it's been wearing on both of us." "What kind of problems?" she asked, keeping her voice non-judgmental and supportive. "We disagree about almost everything lately. How to raise the children, what level of privacy they should have, how much royal duty is too much. Catherine feels like she's lost herself in all of this, and I feel like I'm failing everyone, her, the children, the monarchy, the people." Camilla listened carefully, recognizing the pain in his voice. She remembered her own struggles with finding her place in the royal family, the constant second-guessing, the feeling that nothing she did was ever quite right. And the separation? Is it true that Catherine has been staying with her parents? William nodded reluctantly. "For the past 6 weeks. We thought it would give us both space to figure things out. We've been trying to keep up appearances for public engagements, but it's been getting harder. She's really struggling, Camilla. More than I think anyone realizes." This revelation hit Camilla like a physical blow. Catherine had always seemed so composed, so capable of handling the pressures of royal life with grace and dignity. The thought that she was suffering in silence while maintaining her public duties made Camilla's heart ache. "Have you spoken to her today? Does she know about the story?" "Her mother called me an hour ago." Catherine saw the headlines and has locked herself in her old bedroom. "She won't come out, won't talk to anyone." Carol is beside herself with worry. The image of Catherine, reduced to hiding in her childhood room like a wounded animal, was almost too painful for Camilla to bear. She thought about her own daughter Laura and how she would feel if she were suffering so deeply. "William, we need to think about damage control, but more importantly, we need to think about healing, both for you and Catherine and for the monarchy itself." "I know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "but I don't know how to fix this. Every solution seems to make things worse." Just then, Camilla's phone rang. It was Diana Thornton calling with an update on the media response. "Excuse me for just a moment," Camilla said to William before answering. "Your Majesty, we're seeing unprecedented social media engagement with this story. It's trending worldwide, and we're getting requests for statements from every major news organization. But there's something else. We're starting to see a significant outpouring of public support for the prince and princess. Many people are sharing their own stories of marital difficulties and expressing sympathy. This was unexpected news. Camilla had anticipated public criticism and disappointment, not empathy and support." "What kind of support?" she asked. "Social media posts talking about the pressure the young royals face, comments about how normal it is for couples to go through difficult periods, even some criticism of the media for invading their privacy. The hashtag privacy for Will and Kate is trending alongside the news stories." When Camilla hung up and relayed this information to William, she saw the first glimmer of hope in his eyes since he had arrived. "People are supporting us?" he asked, seeming genuinely surprised. "It appears so. It seems that your struggles have made you more relatable, more human to the public. Perhaps this crisis, as painful as it is, might actually bring you closer to the people you serve." William stood up and walked to the window, careful to stay out of sight of the cameras below. "What do you think we should do?" Camilla joined him at the window, and together they looked out at the crowd of reporters and onlookers. Among the media personnel, she could see ordinary people, tourists, palace workers, citizens who had come simply to show their support. "I think," she said slowly, "that we need to be honest. Not about the private details of your marriage, but about the fact that you're human beings facing human challenges. The public seems ready to accept that." "You mean make a statement acknowledging our problems?" "I mean consider making a statement that acknowledges you're going through a difficult time, but that you're committed to working through it together, with privacy and dignity. No details, no blame, just honesty about the fact that even royal marriages face challenges." William considered this for a long moment. "And Catherine? She'll never agree to a public statement right now. Then we don't ask her to. We protect her privacy while you speak for both of you. Show that you're a husband who's fighting for his marriage and family." For the first time since arriving, William seemed to straighten up slightly. "You really think that could work?" "I think the public is more understanding than we often give them credit for. Your mother taught me that. People respond to genuine emotion and honesty." The mention of Princess Diana brought a soft smile to William's face. "She would have known exactly what to do in this situation, wouldn't she?" "She would have done exactly what we're going to do," Camilla said with conviction. "She would have put her family first and trusted the public to understand that love sometimes requires fighting for it." As they stood together in the gathering twilight, watching the media circus below, both of them felt a shift in the atmosphere. The crisis was far from over, but for the first time since the story broke, there was a sense that they might be able to navigate through it together. The real work of healing and rebuilding was just beginning, but they had taken the first crucial step by facing the truth honestly and with courage. The next morning brought no relief from the media storm. If anything, the coverage had intensified overnight, as news organizations around the world picked up the story and added their own analysis and speculation. Camilla had barely slept, spending much of the night reading reports, monitoring social media, and taking calls from various palace officials and family members. As she prepared for another crisis management meeting, Margaret brought her morning tea along with a stack of newspapers from around the world. The headlines were a mixture of sensationalism and surprising sympathy. "Royal marriage on the rocks" competed with "Modern royals face modern problems" and "Privacy plea for struggling couple." "The coverage is more balanced than we expected," Margaret observed, setting the papers down carefully. "Several major publications are actually criticizing the invasion of privacy, rather than focusing on the scandal itself." Camilla nodded, though she remained cautious about reading too much into the initial reactions. She had learned from experience that public opinion could shift rapidly, especially when it came to the royal family. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unexpected source. "Sarah, Duchess of York. Darling, I know exactly what William and Catherine are going through. If you need someone who understands the pressure, I'm here. Much love, Sarah." The message touched Camilla deeply. Sarah's own struggles with royal life and media scrutiny had been well documented, and her offer of support reminded Camilla that they weren't facing this crisis alone. There were others who had walked this difficult path before. Before she could respond to Sarah's message, James Harrison knocked urgently on her door. "Your Majesty, we have a development. Catherine's mother, Carol Middleton, has called. She says Catherine wants to speak with you directly." This was unexpected. Catherine had been avoiding all communication since the story broke, and Camilla had respected her need for space. The fact that she was now reaching out suggested either a breakthrough or a complete breakdown. "Put the call through immediately," Camilla said, settling into her chair and preparing herself for what could be the most important conversation of the crisis. When Catherine's voice came through the phone, it was barely recognizable. The usually confident and articulate princess sounded exhausted and fragile, her words coming in hesitant bursts. "Camilla, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I didn't know who else to call," Catherine began, her voice thick with unshed tears. "Catherine, my dear, you're never a bother. I've been worried sick about you. How are you holding up?" "I'm not, honestly. I feel like I'm drowning. Everything we've worked so hard to build, everything we've tried to do right, it's all falling apart." Camilla's heart broke for the young woman who had entered their family with such hope and determination. "Catherine, listen to me. This crisis doesn't define you or your marriage. It's a challenge, yes, but it's not the end of your story. But everyone knows now. Everyone knows that I've failed as a royal, as a wife, as a mother. How can I ever show my face in public again? You haven't failed at anything, Camilla said firmly. You're a human being dealing with extraordinary pressures that most people can't even imagine. The fact that you're struggling doesn't make you weak, it makes you normal. There was silence on the other end of the line, and Camilla could hear Catherine crying softly. She remembered her own darkest moments, the times when she had felt overwhelmed by criticism and doubt, and she wished she could reach through the phone to comfort the younger woman. Catherine, can I tell you something that might surprise you? The public response has been largely supportive. People aren't condemning you, they're expressing sympathy and understanding. Many are sharing their own stories of marital difficulties and praising your courage for trying to work through your problems privately. Really? Catherine's voice carried a note of disbelief. Really? It seems that your struggles have made you more relatable, not less admirable. People see you as real, as someone facing the same challenges they do, just under much more intense scrutiny. Camilla heard Catherine take a shaky breath. William mentioned that you think we should make some kind of statement. I don't know if I can face the cameras right now. You don't have to, Camilla assured her. William could speak for both of you. Something simple and honest. Acknowledging that you're going through a difficult time, but that you're committed to working through it together. No details, no blame, just truth. I'm scared, Camilla. What if this is the beginning of the end for us? What if we can't find our way back to each other? This question hung in the air between them, and Camilla recognized it as the core of Catherine's fear. It wasn't really about public perception or media coverage. It was about whether her marriage could survive the pressures that had brought them to this point. Catherine, I want to tell you something that Charles told me during our own darkest times, Camilla said, drawing on her own painful experiences. He said that sometimes a marriage has to break down before it can break through. Sometimes you have to lose each other completely to remember why you chose each other in the first place. Did you ever think you wouldn't make it? Catherine asked quietly, many times. There were moments when I thought the pressure would destroy everything we had built. But we learned that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every day, especially on the days when the feeling isn't there. Catherine was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice was slightly stronger. What do you need from me regarding the statement? Just your permission for William to speak on behalf of both of you. And Catherine, I want you to know that whatever happens, you have my full support. You're not alone in this. Thank you, Catherine whispered. That means more than you know. After ending the call, Camilla sat quietly for several minutes, processing the conversation and its implications. Catherine was clearly in crisis, but she was also showing signs of resilience that gave Camilla hope. The young woman was beginning to recognize that she needed help and was willing to reach out for it. Margaret returned with news that William was waiting to see her again. When he entered the office, Camilla could see that he too looked somewhat more hopeful than the previous day. I spoke with Catherine, Camilla told him. She's agreed to let you make a statement on behalf of both of you. William's relief was palpable. How did she sound? Fragile, but fighting. She's stronger than she realizes, William. You both are. What kind of statement should we make? He asked. Something from the heart. Tell people that you're going through a difficult time, that marriage is hard work even under the best circumstances, and that you're committed to working through your challenges together. Acknowledge the public's concern while asking for privacy to heal. William nodded slowly. When? This afternoon. We'll set up a brief appearance in the palace courtyard. No questions from the press, just your statement. Then you go to Catherine, and you start the real work of rebuilding your marriage. As William left to prepare for what would be one of the most important speeches of his life, Camilla felt a cautious optimism beginning to take root. The crisis was far from over, but they were moving from reaction to action, from defense to authentic engagement with both their problems and their public. The real test would come in the days and weeks ahead, as the young couple worked to rebuild not just their public image, but their private bond. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow across the palace courtyard, as staff members made final preparations for William's statement. Camilla watched from her office window as camera crews and journalists jostled for the best positions, their equipment creating a small forest of tripods and microphones. The atmosphere below was electric with anticipation. Your Majesty, Prince William is ready, Diana Thornton announced. entering the office with a final copy of the speech they had carefully crafted together over the past few hours. Camilla reviewed the words one last time, feeling the weight of their importance. This wasn't just a statement to the press. It was a defining moment that could either begin the healing process for William's family or further damage the monarchy's reputation. Every word had been chosen with care, balancing honesty with dignity, vulnerability with strength. "Where is he now?" Camilla asked, setting the paper aside. "In the blue drawing room, doing final preparations with his speech coach. He's requested a few minutes alone before going out." Camilla nodded, understanding William's need for solitude before facing the world's media. She had stood in similar positions herself, knowing that the next few minutes would be dissected and analyzed by millions of people around the globe. Her phone buzzed with a message from King Charles, who was watching the events unfold from Australia. "Darling, thinking of you all. Whatever happens, I'm proud of how you're handling this. Love, C." The simple message filled her with warmth and determination. She thought about how far they had all come as a family, the challenges they had faced and overcome together. This crisis felt different because it threatened the next generation of royals. But the same principles applied: honesty, dignity, and unwavering support for each other. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was William, looking composed but with an underlying tension that was visible only to someone who knew him well. "How are you feeling?" Camilla asked, standing to greet him. "Nervous but ready," he replied, straightening his tie with hands that trembled almost imperceptibly. "Camilla, I want to thank you for everything you've done over the past 2 days. I don't know how we would have gotten through this without you. We're family, William. This is what families do. We support each other. Through the difficult times, I keep thinking about what my mother would have done in this situation," he said. Quietly, "She would have done exactly what you're about to do," Camilla assured him. "She would have spoken from the heart and trusted the people to understand." William took a deep breath and squared his shoulders. "I'm ready." They walked together through the palace corridors toward the courtyard entrance. Staff members they passed offered encouraging smiles and nods, their faces reflecting the hope that this moment might mark a turning point in the crisis. As they reached the door that led to the courtyard, Camilla placed a gentle hand on William's arm. "Remember, you're not just speaking as a prince today. You're speaking as a husband and father who's fighting for his family. Let that guide your words." William nodded and stepped through the door into the bright afternoon sunlight. The crowd of reporters fell silent as he approached the podium that had been set up in the center of the courtyard. Cameras clicked rapidly, capturing every expression, every gesture. From her position just inside the doorway, Camilla watched as William took his place behind the microphone. He looked out at the assembled crowd for a moment, his gaze steady and determined. When he began to speak, his voice carried across the courtyard with quiet authority. "Good afternoon. I want to address the speculation and reports that have emerged about my family over the past day. Catherine and I have always believed that our private life should remain private. But recent events require me to speak openly about our current situation." He paused, and Camilla could see him drawing strength from somewhere deep within himself. Like many couples, Catherine and I are going through a challenging period in our marriage. The pressures of public life, combined with our roles as parents and as members of the royal family, have created strains that we are working to address. The courtyard remained completely silent except for the soft whir of cameras and the distant sounds of London traffic. "I want to be clear that we remain committed to each other and to our family. We are taking time to work through our differences with the help of counselors and the support of our families. This is not a decision we have taken lightly, and it is not a reflection of any fundamental problems in our relationship." William's voice grew stronger as he continued, and Camilla felt a surge of pride at his courage and honesty. "We ask for your understanding and patience as we navigate this private matter. Our children remain our top priority, and we are working together to ensure they feel loved and secure during this time. We are grateful for the support we have received from the public and hope that you will respect our need for privacy as we work toward healing." He looked directly into the cameras for his final words. "The monarchy has always been strongest when it has reflected the real experiences of the people it serves. We are not perfect, but we are committed to serving you with honesty and dedication as individuals and as a family. Thank you." Without taking questions, William stepped away from the podium and walked back toward the palace entrance. The assembled reporters immediately erupted into a cacophony of shouted questions, but he didn't pause or look back. When he reached Camilla, she could see the relief and exhaustion in his eyes. "How was that?" he asked. "Perfect," she said simply. "Absolutely perfect." They walked back through the palace corridors together, and Camilla could already hear the bustle of activity as communications staff began monitoring the immediate response to the statement. Within minutes, they would know how the public and media were reacting to William's brave admission of vulnerability. "What happens now?" William asked as they reached Camilla's office. "Now you go to Catherine," she replied. "You take all of that courage you just showed out there and you use it to fight for your marriage. The public part of this crisis is manageable now. The real work begins in private." William nodded, understanding the truth of her words. The statement had been necessary to address the public speculation, but it was only the first step in a much longer journey toward healing and renewal. As he prepared to leave for Berkshire to reunite with Catherine, Camilla felt cautiously optimistic about their chances. The young couple had survived their first major crisis with their dignity intact and their commitment to each other publicly reaffirmed. The road ahead would be difficult, but they had proven they could face challenges together with honesty and grace. Diana Thornton appeared with initial reaction reports, her face showing cautious relief. "Your Majesty, the early responses are overwhelmingly positive. People are praising the prince's honesty and courage. The hashtag #SupportWillAndKate is trending worldwide." For the first time in days, Camilla allowed herself a genuine smile. They had weathered the storm, at least for now. The real work of rebuilding was just beginning, but the foundation was strong enough to support whatever came next. 3 weeks had passed since William's statement, and the initial media frenzy had gradually settled into a more manageable rhythm of coverage. Camilla had maintained a careful balance during this period, staying informed about William and Catherine's progress while respecting their need for privacy as they worked through their marital difficulties. The morning brought news that filled Camilla with cautious hope. Margaret entered her study with a warm smile, carrying not just the usual briefing papers but also a personal note that had arrived by special courier. "Your Majesty, this came from the Middleton residence this morning," Margaret said, handing over an envelope bearing Catherine's familiar handwriting. Camilla opened the letter carefully, her heart racing with anticipation. Catherine's handwriting, usually so neat and controlled, showed signs of the emotional turbulence she had been experiencing, but the words themselves carried a strength that hadn't been there during their phone conversation weeks earlier. "Dear Camilla," the letter began, "I wanted to write to thank you for your support during the darkest period of my life. Your wisdom and kindness helped me find my way back to myself and to William. We still have work to do, but I wanted you to know that we're making real progress." The letter went on to describe how William had arrived at her parents' house the evening after his statement, not as a prince making a royal visit, but as a husband asking for forgiveness and a chance to rebuild their relationship. They had spent long hours talking, crying, and beginning to address the fundamental issues that had driven them apart. "We've started counseling together," Catherine wrote, "and it's helping us understand how the pressures of our roles had created distance between us without either of us realizing it. We're learning to be William and Catherine again, not just the Prince and Princess of Wales." Camilla felt tears welling up as she read Catherine's words. The young woman's vulnerability and determination reminded her of her own journey with Charles, the long process of learning to balance personal happiness with public duty. The letter concluded with an invitation that surprised and delighted Camilla. "We would like to invite you to join us for a private dinner next weekend. We want to share our plans for moving forward, both personally and professionally. We couldn't have gotten through this without you, and we want you to be part of our new beginning." Setting the letter aside, Camilla walked to her window and looked out at the gardens where she had spent so many hours contemplating the challenges of royal life. The autumn leaves were beginning to change color, a natural reminder that growth often required letting go of what no longer served. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was King Charles calling from his final day in Australia. "Darling, I've been reading the latest reports. It seems William and Catherine are making remarkable progress," he said, his voice carrying the relief and pride of a father watching his son overcome adversity. "They are," Camilla confirmed, Catherine wrote to say they're attending counseling together and making real breakthroughs. I think this crisis, as painful as it's been, might actually strengthen their marriage in the long run. And what about the public reaction? Are people still supportive? More than we ever expected. William's honesty seemed to create a new kind of connection with the public. People are sharing their own stories of marital difficulties and expressing admiration for the couple's commitment to working through their problems. Charles was quiet for a moment, and Camilla could almost see him processing this information. You know, this might be exactly what the monarchy needed. A reminder that we're human beings first, royals second. After ending the call with Charles, Camilla spent the morning reviewing reports from various palace departments about the ongoing situation. The consensus was remarkably positive. Public approval ratings for William and Catherine had actually increased since the crisis began, and there was a new sense of authenticity in how people viewed the royal family. Diana Thornton knocked and entered with a stack of international newspapers and magazine covers. Your Majesty, you should see how this story is being covered around the world. The narrative has completely shifted. Camilla examined the publications, noting headlines like Modern Royals, Real Problems, Real Solutions, and How Honesty Saved a Royal Marriage. Several featured interviews with relationship experts praising the couple's approach to addressing their difficulties publicly while maintaining appropriate boundaries around their privacy. There's something else, Diana continued. We've been receiving requests from various mental health and relationship organizations asking if the prince and princess would consider becoming patrons or supporters of their work. People see them as authentic advocates for addressing marital and mental health challenges. This development intrigued Camilla. She had always believed that the most effective royal patronages came from personal experience and genuine passion, rather than mere duty. The idea that William and Catherine's struggle could become a platform for helping others facing similar challenges seemed both meaningful and strategically wise. Have you discussed this with their office? Camilla asked, briefly. They're interested but want to complete their own healing process before taking on any new public commitments. They're talking about potentially launching a joint initiative next year, focused on supporting couples and families dealing with stress and mental health challenges. Camilla nodded approvingly. This approach showed wisdom and authenticity, using their experience to help others rather than simply moving on as if nothing had happened. Later that afternoon, Camilla received an unexpected visitor. Sarah Ferguson had arrived unannounced, carrying flowers and wearing the concerned expression of someone who understood royal family crises from personal experience. I hope you don't mind me dropping by, Sarah said as they settled in Camilla's private sitting room. I wanted to see how you were holding up. Managing a family crisis while maintaining royal duties isn't easy. Thank you for coming, Camilla replied, genuinely touched by the gesture. It's been challenging, but I think we're through the worst of it. William's statement was brilliant, Sarah said. I wish I had had someone like you guiding me through my own difficulties. You've managed to turn a potential disaster into an opportunity for greater public connection. They spent an hour discussing the complexities of royal life, the pressure on marriages within the institution, and the evolving relationship between the monarchy and the public. Sarah's perspective, shaped by her own experiences with scandal and redemption, provided valuable insights into the long-term implications of recent events. As evening approached and Sarah prepared to leave, she paused at the door. You know, Camilla, this crisis has shown something important about you as queen consort. You've proven that you can be both a protective mother figure and a wise strategic leader. The monarchy is lucky to have you. After Sarah left, Camilla sat quietly in her study, reflecting on the whirlwind of the past 3 weeks. The crisis that had begun with shocking headlines and family anguish was transforming into something entirely unexpected. A new chapter in the royal family's relationship with the public, based on honesty, vulnerability, and shared human experience. She thought about the dinner invitation from William and Catherine, scheduled for the following weekend. It would mark not just their reunion as a family, but the beginning of a new phase in their roles as royals, one built on authentic connection rather than distant perfection. The crisis had tested everyone involved, but it had also revealed strength, wisdom, and love that might never have emerged under normal circumstances. As Camilla prepared for the evening's final tasks, she felt grateful for the challenges that had brought their family closer together and created new possibilities for meaningful public service. 6 months later, Camilla stood in the grand ballroom of Buckingham Palace, watching William and Catherine work the room at a charity gala dedicated to mental health awareness. The transformation in both of them was remarkable. Where there had once been tension and careful distance, there was now a natural warmth and connection that was impossible to fake. The event itself was a testament to how they had channeled their personal struggles into meaningful public service. The Stronger Together initiative, launched just 2 months earlier, had already raised significant funds and awareness for organizations supporting couples and families facing mental health challenges. "They look happy," King Charles observed, joining Camilla near the ornate windows that overlooked the palace gardens. He had returned from Australia the day after William's statement and had been a steady source of support throughout the family's healing process. "More than happy," Camilla replied, watching as Catherine laughed genuinely at something a guest had said. "They look like themselves again. Like the people they were meant to be." The past 6 months had been a journey of careful reconstruction. William and Catherine had continued their counseling, gradually returning to public duties while maintaining strict boundaries around their private time. Their first joint appearance after the crisis had been at a small community mental health center, where they had spoken candidly about their experience and the importance of seeking help. "Your Majesty," Diana Thornton approached with the latest polling data. The numbers continue to exceed all expectations. Public approval for the Prince and Princess is at an all-time high, and support for the monarchy overall has increased by 15% since the crisis began. Charles raised an eyebrow at this news. 15%? That's extraordinary. "People appreciate the honesty," Diana explained. "Focus groups consistently mention feeling more connected to the royal family, more trusting of their authenticity. The phrase we keep hearing is that they've become royals we can relate to." Camilla nodded, remembering the countless letters and messages of support they had received from ordinary people, sharing their own stories of marital difficulties and family challenges. The crisis had created an unexpected bridge between the palace and the public. "There's something else," Diana continued, lowering her voice slightly. "We've received informal inquiries from several other royal families around the world. They're interested in how we manage the crisis and whether we would be willing to share our approach." This development intrigued Camilla. The idea that their experience might help other royal families navigate similar challenges spoke to the universal nature of the struggles they had faced. Catherine approached them, looking radiant in a midnight blue gown that Charles had complimented earlier in the evening. Her confidence had returned gradually over the months, but tonight she seemed to glow with the inner peace that had been missing during the darkest days of the crisis. "Camilla, I wanted to thank you again for your speech tonight," Catherine said, referring to Camilla's address to the gathered donors and supporters. "Your words about finding strength in vulnerability really resonated with everyone." "I meant every word," Camilla replied. "You and William have shown incredible courage in turning your pain into purpose." William joined their small circle, having just finished a conversation with a prominent mental health advocate. "We just received confirmation that 3 more countries want to adopt versions of our Stronger Together program," he announced with obvious pride. The initiative had indeed exceeded all expectations. What had begun as a way to give meaning to their personal struggles had evolved into an international movement supporting families in crisis. The couple had traveled to several countries to launch local versions of the program, always sharing their own story as a foundation for helping others. "I have some news of my own," Charles announced, his tone suggesting something significant. "The Archbishop of Canterbury has approached me about having you two renew your wedding vows in a small, private ceremony later this year." William and Catherine exchanged a look that spoke volumes about how far they had come. The idea of renewing their vows would have been unthinkable during the darkest days of their separation, but now it seemed like a natural expression of their renewed commitment. "We'd like that very much," Catherine said softly, reaching for William's hand. "It would be a way to mark not just our healing, but our growth into something stronger than we were before." As the evening continued, Camilla found herself reflecting on the unexpected journey that had brought them to this point. The crisis that had threatened to destroy William and Catherine's marriage had instead become the foundation for deeper intimacy and more meaningful public service. She thought about the lessons learned during those difficult weeks, the importance of honest communication, the power of vulnerability, and the surprising capacity of the public to respond with compassion rather than judgment. These insights had transformed not just William and Catherine's relationship, but the entire royal family's approach to their public roles. Later, as the evening wound down and guests began to depart, the family gathered in Camilla's private sitting room for a quiet moment together. The children, who had been carefully protected throughout the crisis while being age-appropriately informed about their parents' challenges, were asleep upstairs under the care of their devoted nanny. "I keep thinking about something you said to me during the worst of it," William told Camilla as they sat around the fireplace. "You said that sometimes a marriage has to break down before it can break through. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. We had to lose each other completely to remember why we chose each other in the first place," Catherine added, echoing Camilla's earlier words. "The crisis forced us to be completely honest about everything. Our fears, our resentments, our dreams, our love." Charles, who had been quietly observing the conversation, spoke up. "What you've accomplished goes beyond personal healing. You've shown that the monarchy can be both dignified and human, both traditional and relevant to modern life. And you've shown that crisis can be an opportunity for growth rather than just something to survive," Camilla added. "Your courage to be vulnerable has created possibilities none of us could have imagined." As they sat together in the comfortable warmth of the sitting room, surrounded by family photos and mementos of their shared history, Camilla felt a deep sense of gratitude for the unexpected blessings that had emerged from such a difficult time. The breaking news that had once threatened to tear apart their family had instead become the catalyst for deeper connections, more authentic public service, and a stronger monarchy. William and Catherine's willingness to share their struggles had created a new model for royal engagement, one based on shared humanity rather than distant perfection. Outside the palace windows, London continued its ancient rhythm, unaware of the quiet moment of reflection taking place within the royal residence. But the effects of this family's journey through crisis and into healing would continue to ripple outward, touching lives and relationships far beyond the palace walls. The story that had begun with shocking headlines and family anguish had transformed into something entirely unexpected, a testament to the power of love, honesty, and the courage to seek help when it's needed most. And at the center of it all was Camilla, whose wisdom and steady guidance had helped transform a crisis into an opportunity for growth, connection, and renewed purpose. As the family said their goodnights and prepared to return to their respective homes, there was a sense of completion to this chapter of their story, even as new chapters waited to be written. The breaking news had stunned everyone inside the palace, but Camilla's reaction and the family's response to her leadership had created something beautiful from something broken.